You could feel the money in the air that night: champagne towers, glittering gowns, and a ballroom so shiny it practically screamed rich. Meanwhile, I sipped my cheap sparkling water, my $50 phone sitting quietly on the white linen table like a stubborn rebellion against all the diamonds flashing around me. Across the room, Madison Carter, the regional manager's wife and full-time snob, clocked my phone and wrinkled her nose like she'd smelled something bad. "Is that a technophone?" she gasped, clutching her gold-plated iPhone like a lifeline. "I didn't know they still made those." Her voice was syrupy, sweet, but loud enough that heads turned. I gave her the kind of smile you reserve for people who think their phone defines them. "It calls and texts," I said lightly. "That's all I need." But Madison wasn't done. "Darling, how do you even take photos?" she cooed, as if I'd just told her I lived in a cardboard box. Before I could answer, James Sterling Jr., heir to Sterling Enterprises and full-time smug jerk, sauntered over. He picked up my phone between two fingers like it might bite him. "Remind me, what department are you from again?" he sneered. "Mailroom," I answered, cool as ice. "Actually just started this week." Madison giggled into her champagne. "Maybe after a few paychecks, you can buy something that doesn't embarrass the company brand." James chuckled, smoothing down his custom suit. "Speaking of upgrades," he said, winking at Madison, "tomorrow's board meeting will decide the future of Sterling Enterprises. Big changes coming. Some people might want to update their resumes and their phones." I checked my scratched phone. 7:58 p.m. Perfect timing. "Funny," I said, sipping my water. "The board meeting got pushed to next week." James barked out a laugh. "Sweetheart, I'm the CEO's son. Trust me, I'd know." "Oh, I know you're James Sterling Jr." I smiled, standing just as heavy footsteps echoed across the marble floors. "Which makes me—" I paused, watching the color drain from his face. "Sarah Sterling." Silence. Like the entire ballroom had stopped breathing. Behind me, my father, James Sterling Sr., the real power in this company, strode in, his presence heavier than the chandeliers above. "I see you've met my daughter," he said smoothly. Madison's champagne flute slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. And James Jr.? He looked like he'd just seen the ghost of every bad decision he'd ever made. Dad smiled warmly, but his voice cut like a knife. "Since we're all here, let's make it official. After 30 years, I'm stepping down. And my successor—" He paused, looking straight at me. "Is Sarah." James Jr.'s face lit up for half a second before Dad crushed him flat. "Sarah, who completed her Harvard MBA, tripled our international profits, and knows this company better than anyone else. Because she worked every department undercover for the past 5 years." The silence was delicious. I tapped a button on my ancient phone and projected my performance charts onto the giant ballroom screen. "Actually," I said sweetly, "it's a 324% profit increase. Would anyone like to see quarterly breakdowns?" The next hour was a blur. Executives who ignored me all night were suddenly hanging on my every word. Madison's fake apologies were almost funnier than James Jr.'s frantic attempts to explain how he didn't know he had a sister. But deep down, I knew. The real work was just beginning. Because I'd seen the rot inside Sterling Enterprises, the corruption, the bullying, the way power protected incompetence. And now? Now I had the power to burn it all down and rebuild it right. The next morning, I walked into Sterling Enterprises at 7 a.m. sharp. My $50 phone and 5 years of evidence, ready for action. Security did a double take when I took the executive elevator. Apparently, James Jr. had sent a mass email overnight calling me an imposter. Cute. Thomas, my new executive assistant, loyal, sharp, old school, greeted me at the door. "James Jr. and his lawyer are waiting in your office," he said grimly. "Perfect," I smiled. call security, and be ready to watch the show. Inside, James Jr. lounged at my desk, feet up, acting like he still owned the place. Sis, he sneered, let's not make this ugly. Walk away quietly, keep whatever Daddy promised you, and I'll forget your little stunt. I set my $50 phone down on the desk, camera facing him. You mean like you forgot about the Miller contract? I asked. His feet dropped to the floor like I'd fired a gun. I tapped my phone. Play. His voice filled the room, boasting about the $500,000 kickback he'd pocketed from a crooked supplier. You can't, his lawyer stammered. I can, I interrupted smoothly. One-party consent state. Everything you said? Recorded? Every dirty deal? Logged? Every stolen dollar? Documented? James lunged. Security stormed in. I calmly played more recordings, the pension fund theft, the expense account fraud, the harassment cover-ups. By 10 a.m., Madison's husband was in cuffs, half of James Jr. Cronies had resigned and James Jr. himself was being dragged out of the building, still shrieking about family loyalty. The board meeting afterward? Historic. I stood at the head of the table and laid out 5 years of rot. Clean, organized, undeniable. This isn't revenge, I told them. This is a reckoning. By nightfall, corrupt executives were gone, honest employees were promoted, and Sterling Enterprises was finally back to being the company it was meant to be. A year later, I sat in my corner office, the same view James Jr. probably thought he'd own. Framed on my desk, my old $50 phone, retired but undefeated. Next to it, a photo of my mother, the woman who taught me that true power isn't about what you flash, it's about what you build. A knock at the door. Miss Sterling? The new employee orientation is ready. I grabbed my new phone, nothing flashy, just smart, efficient mine, and stood up. Time to tell them a story, I smiled. About a $50 phone, and how it took down a dynasty.